Remember the great production shows and musicals in Las Vegas with showgirls, comedians, specialty acts, and a live orchestra? Well, guess what? You can experience it again. My guest is Lauri S. Thompson, an entertainment and intellectual property attorney who spent 21 years performing as a dancer, singer, actress, model, and spokesperson. And she's one of many performers appearing in Follies, the masterpiece Broadway musical, with music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Follies features 45 dazzling performers, a 30-piece orchestra, and 12 legendary Las Vegas showgirls. This unique production is only available for 6 performances, April 11th through the 14th at the Aliante Casino Hotel. For ticket information, go to showgirlscomehome.com. That's showgirlscomehome.com. And Lauri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ira. It's great to see you and great to be with you today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Lauri and I, for those who may not know, worked together many years ago at the Tropicana, which sadly is going away. But I wanted to talk to you today about how did the genesis for this idea of presenting the Follies in this unique way begin?
Well, I'll tell you, the 3 producers had been talking about doing the show here for quite a while, and they started thinking about it and what it represented. The story of it is where dancers come back to the theater that they performed together for many years to have one last reunion because they're tearing the theater down to build a parking garage.
Sounds familiar.
It was originally in New York. It's Stephen
Right.
Sondheim's musical, won a bunch of Tonys in the 70s. And it was kind of based on the Ziegfeld Follies in New York. So this one has a lot of the legendary showgirls are from Jubilee, from the Folies Bergère, from the Lido, Enter the Night, even Casino de Paris, and
the Dunes,
some
right.
of them. One lady performed in the Moulin Rouge. She was the first Black showgirl here. She's doing our show. So that's how it kind of got started. And Tom Michelle and David Robinson had a supper club over in the old commercial center during COVID. Some of you may have gone there for the supper club and seen shows there. So quite a few of the performers that they had there are in the Follies. So it kind of means an awful lot to us. I'll tell you, I met with them and they told me about the show and how excited they were and showed me their deck with all of the images. And I said, well, yes, I would be happy to do your legal work pro bono for this nonprofit. And they looked at me and said, what do you mean? We want you to perform in this show. We want you to be one of the legendary showgirls. I do have 2 hats I'm wearing.
That is great. I have great memories of you flying. I mean, most people don't know the story, but you used to perform in the Follies at the Tropicana, and then you would fly down to San Diego on Southwest to go to law school, and you would do this day after day, week after week. And I always admired that stamina and that dedication, that commitment, which I never had for anything. But you're able to do it. Now you're a preeminent copyright and property protection attorney in Las Vegas.
I am. Yes, I've been practicing law for 27 years now with the big international law firm Greenberg Traurig. And I was a performer for 21 years. So I've now been practicing law longer than I've been performing. But when I first came out here, I had gotten a call and my dance partner and I sent out a videotape for Jubilee. They were looking for new adagio teams and someone had seen us perform and asked us if we'd be interested in coming out for that. And I thought, well, I finished college in 1979, decided to go to the International Ballet Competition and dance there with the Jackson Ballet. And I thought, well, that'll be great. I heard they're going to open a law school in Las Vegas. So I'll work in the show at night and go to law school during the day as soon as they open it. Well, there were a couple of sidetracks there. First of all, I was too short to be in Jubilee to be one of their principals. But Fluff Laco called Nancy Housels in the middle of the night and said, I have a ballerina here that I think would be very happy with you. And that's how I started dancing with Nevada Ballet Theater here and learned from Nancy Housels how to raise money in the city. And she really opened a lot of doors. And then I saw her act that she had done in the Folies Bergère with Francois Zoni. It was Zoni and Claire. And they had the Adagio act. And so we watched some of their videos, and Nancy ended up marrying Kel Housel, who was the president of the Tropicana at the time. And back in the olden days, once you got married, that was it. Your performance career was over. So that's when she really got serious about starting the ballet company with Vasily Sulich. And I danced with that company for 2 years, and then decided it was time to try to put our act together for Jamie and I to see if we could get an act on the strip as an Adagio team. And we ended up in the Follies 1994. So I was in that show for 13 years. I had to count up the performance one time. I don't know why I did, but I counted up the number of performances that I've done in my career over that 21 years, from 16 to 37. So quite a long spread. And it was over 10,000 performances. So it was a little bit of a challenge for me to decide if I was going to do my 10,001. If it was going to be a good one, because I didn't want to do it if it wasn't going to be a good one. And, obviously after sitting in a chair practicing law for 27 years, I'm not in the greatest shape for dancing, not to mention it's a musical, and I haven't actually sang in a musical since, oh my gosh, probably 1981. It's been that long. So, but it's come back, it surprises me. And the thing that's so fascinating about this show is we are older women. I think I'm one of the youngest, and I'm 64. The oldest is 97. I'm working with two other friends from the Folies Bergère, Terry Moralt and I'm sorry, Sherry Moralt and Terry Thorndike.
Right.
And we have ghosts of our younger self. So they represent what we remember about ourselves when we were in our 20s and 30s performing on the strip, and they kind of shadow us as ghosts. So it's just fascinating the way this whole thing turned out. And well, Ira, you and I have a very special day coming up on April 2nd.
Yes, correct. And I have a feeling that this Follies means more as a result of that.
It does. It does. It means a lot to us. And, Las Vegas, it's kind of understandable in Las Vegas because everything is always recreating itself, trying to be fresh. We want people to be able to do multiple return trips to Las Vegas and see something new and exciting. So I think everyone is very excited to see our new baseball stadium on the Tropicana property and whatever new resort they build there, because we have a way of building the most phenomenal resorts in the world here. So we're not worried about it being very exciting and new. So it does close a chapter, but I'm just so excited to see what we do next year.
Are you going to try and get a room there for one night as a nostalgic revisit?
I didn't even think of that. I actually stayed in a suite there on my wedding night. Nice. So the executives at the Tropicana were very nice and gave us a suite as a wedding gift. So Alan and I stayed there, and I wasn't too happy it had a pool table in that suite. And so all of his groomsmen came to shoot pool the night before. Well, I guess I did go out for my bachelorette party.
Yeah, there you go.
I wouldn't have known if I hadn't, seen some leftovers, beer cans sticking around afterwards. But it was very lovely. So it is kind of precious. I didn't think about that. I'm in the middle of rehearsals, though. Today was our first day in the theater at the Aliante. So that was kind of an exciting time to show up when the doors are locked and they first open them, and they open the back door to load in our sets. And it was a very exciting day to day to actually get to be able to.
What did you get? Did you get a flashback to the Tropicana when you went to the showroom?
Did a little bit. I toured some with ballet companies before I came out here. So I've been in a few other theaters. I did a show at the Desert Inn. I don't know if people remember that. That's now Wynn Las Vegas and Encore, where the Desert Inn used to be. And I did a show at the Hacienda People might not even remember that at all because that's now Mandalay Bay, of course. So,
Right.
and I forgot before that, I did a lounge show at the Frontier. Yeah, I wonder if your listeners remember what hotel was there where they built the Frontier.
Wait a minute. Let me think a second. Yes, that's the Mirage.
It was, well, it was the Stardust,
Oh, yes,
and
you're absolutely
then
correct.
the
Right. Right.
Frontier, and now it's actually Resort World.
Right. Yeah. My
Yeah.
pollinated brain got me off, but you're absolutely correct. Yes. That's great. So here's the thing about the Follies that's going to be, again, we talked about April 11th to the 14th.
Yes.
It's directed by David James Robinson, and
Yes.
Dave Loeb is the musical director, and Sarah LeClaire is the choreographer. So
Yes.
is it interesting working with those people, because you've been very busy the last dozen or so years doing law, so now all of a sudden
Ooh.
you're back into the musical world.
Yes, I am. And it is wonderful working with them. David Robinson was actually with Stephen Sondheim when he wrote Follies. So that's why it's so special to them. And so he was a part of that, Stephen running things by him, saying, what do you think about this? So it's really very special. He's very particular that we do it exactly like Stephen would have done it. Every break, every sound in the music, every word in the music, he wants to try to stay true to the way that it was originally written. Now, Sarah St. Clair is a beautiful dancer and a beautiful choreographer. And she actually was one of the dancers in Donnie and Marie. And my best friend from college was the choreographer, Bonnie Story. So it ends up being a very small world. They just one step away, but it's nice to see this new generation of younger people. We have two very young people in our show that are playing the young Sally and the young Phyllis. Oh gosh, one of them is a sophomore at LVA, and the other one is getting her master's at UNLV. So it's nice to see them so young and excited. But I will tell you, all of us old people are very excited to be there too.
We should
I
point
was
out that
tap dancing with Bubba Knight today, and he was loving life.
Gladys Knight and the Pips Bubba Knight. Yeah.
Yes, it was. I saw him do a little Pips move, and I went, oh, I saw that when you were in your prime. He still is, by the way.
I knew you'd add that extra little thing. Yes, I would have done the same thing. So the Follies premiered in 1971 and won 7 Tony Awards. Now this production, because we talked about it, the size of the orchestra, the size of the number of performers, and
Yes.
I mean that's quite a bit to mount. I didn't realize the
Mhm.
Aliante had that big of a stage that you can pull that off in.
Well, we found out today it's not as big as we thought it was.
Okay.
We got 30 of us on stage. But it's really clever the way the set is set up, because we're at a reunion and this stage is stripped. So we don't really see the band behind us. And the Joy Band, there is a 30-piece band behind us. So it starts with the curtain and you don't see the band. You just see the reunion happening and a guy on stage with a piano and a trumpet player. And when that curtain opens and you see the stairs and they start with Beautiful Girls, that's where we all come down the stairs and do our little parade. Yeah, so it's a very exciting opening.
I want to mention again, for tickets, go to showgirlscomehome.com, showgirlscomehome.com. And the sheer number of people on stage, not just the orchestra, not just the showgirls, but there's a lot, as you mentioned, Bubba Knight. I know Clint Holmes.
Michelle Johnson is in the show. It's got a list of the who's who in there.
Yeah.
Skye Miles is performing. She did Menopause, the musical out here in Las Vegas, and ended up staying. A lot of people do that. They come out for a show, a Cirque show, or they come out for a Broadway show that has an extended run, and they say, this is a really nice place to live. I think I would like to have a house and a family and have the audience come to me rather than traveling around going to the different audiences. So we found that even, working as a lawyer, there's a lot of people that want residencies here. They're looking to stay for a while. They want to do 2-3 months in a row rather than come in and out for just a
Right.
week. And that shows us how much they like to stay in Las Vegas and how much they like the Las Vegas audiences coming to them.
Well,
So what do we do
I
now?
think people listening and watching us outside of Las Vegas as well, this will be a very unique show to go to if you've not seen it and you don't realize
Mhm,
the importance of it from a point of view of history and the number of,
mhm,
as you mentioned, the showgirls, the original showgirls, a lot of performers such as P. Barbuti, I believe, is going to be performing
mhm.
as
Yeah.
well. And
Mhm.
the musical itself. So that combination is very, very unique. So not just for locals, but for visitors to get tickets to this type of event. And I think the timing, again, I referenced it earlier, but with the Tropicana closing and
Yeah.
symbolically the Follies that was at the Tropicana never coming
Mhm.
back, since the Tropicana's never coming back, this is a great way
Right.
to celebrate an era in essence.
Yes. Absolutely. And it is for me, and it's for so many of us as well. And I think audiences, once they see the list of the performers, they'll know so many of them and they'll want to come and see them. The Joy Band is just wonderful. They get together and play together, but they also play in most of the shows on the Strip. A lot of them are the bands that play for the musicals that come in to the Smith Center.
Mhm.
They play in Myron's, any of the other big shows that come into Caesars, MGM. So they are phenomenal musicians. And
Lori, how did the rehearsals work in this sense? Because there are so many moving parts.
well, you
How
have to
did
have
that
a
work?
really good choreographer, and we do, and a good director, and we do. And Ira, I had to put a little plug in for the
Please,
production manager, who
please.
is my husband, Alan Bracken. Yeah, so he put in Lance Burton show. He put in Cherry Boom Boom at the Tropicana, and he put in Masters of Illusion at Bally's, and he was doing Hans Clock at the Excalibur when the pandemic hit, and they shut down the all of the showrooms and well the casino resorts as well. So he's finally coming back and doing one more show too.
Good,
So
good. Yeah, I remember Hans
yeah,
Clock. I remember that whole thing
yes,
when he came in and
wonderful magician.
yes, exactly. You know, it'd be great if you could get Lance to come by. That would be nice too. Lance is good on that
Yeah,
board
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, I will give him a call and see. I'm actually very close to him because my children, my two boys, were raised backstage at the Lance Burton show. So, raised by stagehands and learned to climb the rail, which is those ropes that go all the way up to the ceiling. And
Right.
the stagehands taught them how to play basketball. They helped them with their homework and they practiced piano back there while I was practicing law. And I would try as hard as I could to get over to the Monte Carlo to pick them up before the show started. And I usually made it.
But occasionally.
Although I will tell you, my youngest first words were stand by and go, which means I didn't make it by the time the show started. So they're good kids. They
Lance is
learned a
such,
lot being
yeah,
raised by stagehand.
Lance is such a great guy that I'm sure it worked out because he just is. He's just down to earth, great guy. And he,
I just love him to death.
yeah.
And we have been working on, I think this is one of the few times that he hasn't come out. I work with Variety, the children's charity,
Mhm.
and Lance always comes out to do our Christmas bash. So we go to the 3 special needs schools and do a performance there with the local performers. And then we do a fundraiser that we just did on Sunday for the Oscars party. It's called Salute to Hollywood, and we raise money for the Variety charity. I wear a gown and run up and down the aisles in the movie theater selling raffle tickets. And Lance is usually there with us, but he didn't make it this year. He's touring his show.
Correct.
It's a smaller show,
Right.
and I'll have to find out what he's doing and see if he can get by to see us. I'm sure that he would love to.
Some of the gang from those days are with him. Fielding West is one, traveled with
Yes,
him and performed. So yeah, it would be
Michael
great.
Godot.
Yes, Michael
Remember
Godot.
Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Rome, I believe. So yeah, there's
Yes,
people
Mike
that are
Rome is
part of
doing
that.
that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
he did bring that show, not last Christmas, the Christmas before, and they did the show over at the um, Opportunity Village's Christmas, what's it called, Festival of Lights, the where they have all the Christmas trees, and we
right.
did the show there. And that was a wonderful thing to do. The
Well, I
children
think
just,
you should see if you can get them involved. That would be great. And
I know, I know, I know. Yeah. So let's get the gang together and do a show.
exactly. I wanted to mention too that the musical is in honor of Bill Fayne. So for those of our audience who may not know who Bill is or was, unfortunately, he's no longer
Yes.
with us. Can you share that with us?
I can, yes. Well, it's probably Clint Holmes that misses him the most
Oh,
because Bill
sure.
was his musical director for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do anything without Bill Fayne being the musical director, whether it was Super Summer Theater. He used to do a lot of those shows as the musical director. Every time I would do some kind of corporate event or I would do some special production for a charity, for example, it was always Bill Fayne there. I remember one New Year's Eve, we were at Myron's house, and Clint taught all the little kids, all our children, to sing his famous it's on the playground of my
Yes,
mind.
yes,
My
yes. I know
name is
exactly what
on.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
And he taught the children to sing it, and Bill Fayne played the piano, and all of our little kids were sitting on a step back when they were very sweet and 5 years
Right.
old.
Is it
And
Playground of My
Asia was
Mind or
there,
Playthings
Clint
of My
Holmes'
Mind?
granddaughter.
Yeah, I think it's Playground of My Mind. I think that's correct.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's
yeah,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
And that's what
Who
considering
didn't
my
sing
brain
that
is.
song back then? All of us knew that song. And to see our children, actually, it was Clint's granddaughter, Asia, that was singing, Myron's daughter, Molly, that was singing, and our two boys. And it was just precious, very precious
Oh, that's
time.
great. Share with us a little bit about the showgirls. I want to go back to that again because that's such an
Yes.
important part of Las Vegas. And you mentioned, I believe it's Miss Bailey who is 90 or 91.
Yes. Anna Bailey is doing very, very well. She's actually 97. Yes.
Amazing.
She
Yeah.
got a little bit of a respiratory infection, but she was back in rehearsals today with us. So, what's so great about this is it's an actual reunion, and sometimes people remember what they were doing, and sometimes people don't quite remember it, and then they catch on. So, we don't have to worry about it if we're not perfect, but almost
Right.
everybody is.
Oh, that's
And then
good.
we've got Cynthia Domaney, and Cynthia was a showgirl. She was actually a cowgirl before she was a showgirl, and so she's got some big history with her family and their development that they did. Her husband was involved with the Tropicana before we got there, Ira.
Right.
And uh, she's, I believe, 91.
Hmm.
Yeah. And she gets out of a chair a little faster than I do. So gotta give her credit for that. Suzanne Jepson. Some of these ladies one of them danced with Gypsy Rosalie. I can't remember if
That's
she was the one
that's
that
history.
did, but
That's history.
yeah, it goes just way back, and it's just so fascinating. The other day, Suzanne was telling me about a nightclub that they used to go, or a kind of a jazz club that they used to go and dance at afterwards. And it ended up that Anna Bailey and her husband owned the club.
Yeah,
Is it the
Bob Bailey.
Sugarloaf?
Bob
Yeah,
Bailey. Yeah.
yeah,
And
they
Bob
did.
Bailey was a really a major force in Las Vegas. He was involved in civil rights. He was a member of the Chamber of Commerce. A gentleman, he wrote an autobiography, and I was able to interview him before he passed away about his book. Yeah, he was a great
Yeah.
guy. So that whole Bailey family is great.
Yes, yes, they are. And it kind of reminded me, not to jump around too much, but it
That's right.
reminded me of the Neon Museum. So the Neon Museum is actually we're going to use some of their signs that they have from Showstoppers. If you'll notice in the Follies letters, each one of those letters is from a different casino resort that was on the Strip that's now closed.
Very
So you
clever. Very
get
clever.
like the R from the Riviera, you get the S from the Stardust, you get the F from, is it the Frontier? I'll have to go and study that again. But when somebody told me, I went, oh, of course I recognize that. And if you've ever been over to the Neon Museum and seen all of those signs and seen all the letters that they have there from those signs, that has such a great history. And we're going to be adding that to the Follies as well.
What I like about the show is this, because you don't get it too often. Yes, there are a lot of community groups and there are a lot of fundraisers and there's a lot of annual events. But the reason that this is special is it really is something that is unfortunately disappearing in Las Vegas, where you're having major buy-in and major participation by all kinds of people and organizations. You just don't normally get that anymore because the town has grown up to be more of a city than a town. I call it a town, but it is a city.
Yeah. Well, and you and I, came in just after the shift from the entertainment being an advertising tool and almost like the prize jewel of the resorts. So if they didn't make enough money on the entertainment, that's okay. That just was their show off piece. And people came in to gamble. And then it kind of shifted where I think it started with Steve Wynn at the Mirage. It says, are people going to pay $20 for pasta? And the answer was yes. And are they going to pay more for their hotel rooms? And the answer was yes. And so now, just because I'm such a nerd, Ira, we are down to in the 30% range, 36 or so of the money that we make off of gaming. And the rest is all made off of retail.
Right.
So those are your shows and your restaurants and your alcohol, of course, has always been high up on the list.
Conventions too. Yeah.
And how much you'll pay for a hotel room. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it definitely changed. This is a great opportunity for people to come and experience what Vegas, to us at least, represented. And the fact that you're getting all these people involved, it's wonderful that you're able to get that many showgirls together, especially showgirls in their 90s, which is outstanding in that sense. What's your favorite part of the show? Can you share with us before I let you go?
Oh my gosh. Well, there are so many wonderful numbers, but the number that closes right before intermission is it's sometimes called Mare Mare or Who's That Girl? And it is huge. It has got everybody in the cast in this number, almost. And it's very exciting. We've got the big feather fans. We have some of the girls with mirrors. This is where Bubba comes in and does his tap number, and Skydie Miles does her beautiful song. And it's more about like, who am I? And all the girls act like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to do this number. And I have a line after the show that says, oh my gosh, I forgot how much that number winded me. I just wish my kids could be here and see me when I was doing this back then. And my kids are going to be in the audience while I'm doing it now. So I'm kind of excited about that. But that number is really terrific. And then the curtain comes down for intermission. The curtain comes back up just like we just finished the number. So I'm going to have to pretend I'm winded because I had intermission to recover. But that's pretty exciting. And most people will recognize Beautiful Girls. That is such a wonderful, that was actually in Jubilee, Beautiful Girls. And that's where all the showgirls come one by one down the staircase and onto the stage. And so that's the time that is their moment to relive their history of being a showgirl. So everyone will just love that. Tim Molyneux is singing. He's got a beautiful voice and he's singing Beautiful Girls, and the chorus all does parts in Beautiful Girls. But I think that that'll just take your heart. A lot of these songs, you'll be surprised. I think a lot of people may have never seen the Follies, but when they hear the music, they're going to recognize those songs, and that's going to remind them of a part of their life with that music.
Well, that's a great way to leave it. My guest has been Lauri S. Thompson, one of many performers appearing in Follies, featuring 45 dazzling performers, a 30-piece orchestra, and 12 legendary Las Vegas showgirls. And this unique production is only available for 6 performances, April 11th through the 14th at the Aliante Casino Hotel. For ticket information, go to showgirlscomehome.com. That's showgirlscomehome.com. And Lauri, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Ira. I enjoyed it.
Same here. See you next time.